The UFC is changing fast, and the future of every division might look nothing like what you expect. From Zhang Weili to Tom Aspinall, every champion has a clock ticking. If you love real fight talk with no hype, make sure you hit subscribe, because what's coming next will shock you. Let's break down who's about to rise, who's about to fall, and the fights that could change everything. First up, Valentina. So the question is, what's next for Valentina Shevchenko? If we're being honest, Valentina Shevchenko's career is reaching the final chapter, and there's not much left for her in the division. I see 2 more title defenses at most before she calls it a career. One of those fights will likely be a super fight against Zhang Weili, and I believe Valentina wins that matchup. But beyond that, the options are extremely limited. Alexa Grasso was a challenge, but now that rivalry seems settled, who else is there? Maybe Natalia Silva. But realistically, the talent pool at women's flyweight isn't deep enough to keep Valentina engaged for much longer. The UFC doesn't seem to be putting much effort into promoting the women's divisions either. Honestly, when was the last women's title fight that felt like a major event? It feels like the UFC has placed women's MMA on the back burner lately. Looking at the future, I predict Valentina beats Zhang Weili and whoever steps up next, possibly the current top contender after Grasso. After that, I think she retires on top because there's simply nothing left for her to prove. 2 more title defenses for Valentina Shevchenko, and then she rides off into the sunset. Next, Alexandre Pantoja. After Tim Elliott's win over Kayla Harrison, it really made me think, will Alexandre Pantoja ever surpass Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson as the greatest flyweight of all time? Honestly, I don't think so, and it's not entirely Pantoja's fault. The issue lies in the division itself. Flyweight has stagnated in terms of talent. Look at the top contenders. Brandon Moreno is very well-rounded, but beyond him, most fighters are specialists. Kayla Harrison is primarily a striker, while someone like Brandon Royval is another stand-up guy with limited grappling depth. A lot of flyweight contenders have glaring holes. Either they're excellent on the ground and lack striking, or the opposite. Compare that to Mighty Mouse's era. Were those fighters better strikers than today's guys like Kayla Harrison? Probably not, but they were more well-rounded overall. That balance made Mighty Mouse's run more impressive and harder to replicate. Now, when it comes to Pantoja, he's dominant. He'll likely face Joshua Van soon. And let's be honest, Pantoja probably destroys him. Van is talented and only 23, and I believe he'll become a future champion. But right now, this is easy money for Pantoja. After Van, who else is left? Maybe Amir Albazi. After that, we're running out of names. I predict Pantoja gets 3 more title defenses before his run ends. At some point, he might move up and face someone like Merab Dvalishvili, but as long as he stays at flyweight, there just isn't enough depth to push his legacy higher. And as for the Mighty Mouse debate, prime Demetrius Johnson still beats Pantoja, in my opinion. Mighty Mouse fought more complete fighters and faced greater adversity in his era. Current Mighty Mouse might lose, but in their primes, Mighty Mouse takes it. Pantoja is great, but the division hasn't evolved enough for him to surpass Mighty Mouse. Next up, Kayla Harrison. Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes, the division killer scenario. Let me be brutally honest. If Kayla Harrison fights Amanda Nunes next and loses, women's bantamweight is dead. Here's why. When the UFC signed Kayla, the whole plan was clear: make her a star. Women's MMA desperately needs new stars. The UFC just locked in the Paramount deal, and they need big announcements. So imagine this. All bonuses go up to $100,000. Fighter pay transparency improves. Huge marquee events announced. And then, boom, Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes. But here's the problem. If Amanda Nunes comes back and beats Kayla Harrison, that division collapses under its own history. Why? Because Amanda already cleared it out. Fighters like Pennington, Pena, and Bueno Silva couldn't carry the division after Amanda retired. If Kayla, someone who was supposed to be the new face, loses to her, that's a promotional black hole. Honestly, if that happens, shut down bantamweight and featherweight. Merge what's left with 145 or create a new catchweight division, because no one will care about 135 anymore. Now, could Kayla beat Amanda? Maybe. But if she doesn't, and I honestly think Amanda runs through her, Kayla's star power dies before it even takes off. And that's why this fight is the ultimate gamble for the UFC. And next, Alexander Volkanovski. I remember when Volk was booked against Diego Lopez, I actually picked Diego. Why? I thought the 35-year-old curse would hit. I thought Volk's chin was compromised, and I was wrong. Dead wrong. And here's something that sounds absolutely insane. The guy I think has the best chance to beat Volk isn't the most talented fighter he's faced. It's Lerone Murphy. Here's why. Lerone has the skill set to make it competitive on the scorecards. He can bank a couple close rounds, maybe steal a 10-9 or 2. If it goes the distance, there's a world where Lerone edges out a split decision 48-47. He's crafty enough, smart enough, and his game is built for decisions. Compare that to Movsar Evloev. Amazing grappler, sure, but his striking bag isn't deep. And Volk has already handled elite grapplers like Islam Makhachev twice. You think Evloev brings something Volk hasn't seen? No way. So what's next for Volk? Probably this. Lerone Murphy. Toughest stylistic challenge for decisions. Gene Silva, if he beats Diego Lopez. Maybe a wild card after that. At absolute max, 3 more title defenses. And honestly, the Volk I saw against Diego Lopez, patient, calculated. That version beats everyone in line right now. And now, let's talk about Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. Is it happening? Alright, here's what I'm hearing about Ilia Topuria, and this is wild. If Ilia ends up fighting Justin Gaethje, it's not about merit. It's about making a splash for the new Paramount deal. Think about it. The UFC isn't worried about selling cards anymore, but they want big headlines. What do they have? Paddy Pimblett? Sure, but he's not ready for a title shot. Justin Gaethje? Big name. Always exciting. Arman Tsarukyan? Yeah, nobody cares right now. And honestly, I love this. Why? Because fighters who do something big for the company should get rewarded. Look at Lerone Murphy stepping up on short notice, and Aaron Pico. He deserves a shot. Meanwhile, Arman, decision win over Charles Oliveira, turned down multiple fights. Now people are hyping him like he's Khamzat Chimaev. Now let's get to the real question. What happens if Ilia fights Gaethje? Simple. Ilia turns Gaethje into a highlight reel. This is almost a guaranteed Ilia win. And honestly, I think Ilia beats Justin Gaethje, Paddy Pimblett, and even Arman Tsarukyan. The hype for Arman is insane, but I literally watch him get outstruck by guys like Joaquim Silva. He's good, but not that guy. Now here's where it gets interesting. Islam Makhachev. If Islam stays at lightweight, I think Ilia struggles. But if Islam moves to welterweight, Ilia could easily rack up 2 title defenses at featherweight or lightweight. Right now, I'm calling Ilia gets 2 defenses max before Islam or a bigger monster steps in. Now, let's talk about Della Maddalena versus Islam Makhachev. The big question, can JDM shock the world? And how he stacks up against Islam Makhachev. First off, I really like JDM's game. He's one of the few guys who can make life difficult for Islam. Why? We saw what happened with Belal Muhammad. Belal couldn't impose his grappling on JDM, and that's saying something. JDM's striking in the pocket is nasty, and if he keeps it standing, he can piece almost anyone up. But here's the reality. If JDM fights Makhachev next, I still favor Islam heavily. Islam's grappling pressure is on another level, and JDM hasn't proven he can deal with that caliber yet. Now, here's the wild part. If Della beats Islam, that changes everything. I see him going on a serious run. Against guys like Ian Gary, I favor JDM in the pocket. Against someone like Sean Brady has a shot with wrestling, but JDM probably lights him up on the feet. But as of right now, I think JDM loses his next fight because Islam is just too dominant. However, if he pulls off the upset, we might be looking at a new era at welterweight. And next, Tom Aspinall is about to run the heavyweight division. Understand this. If Tom Aspinall gets through Cyril Gane, which I think he will, he's about to go on an insane run. Here's the simplest way to break this fight down. 2 guys both good at striking. One of them is good at striking and grappling. Who do you pick? You pick the guy with both tools. Cyril Gane is a phenomenal striker, but that's all he has. Tom Aspinall, he's got elite striking and legitimate grappling. That threat changes everything. When Gane doesn't have to worry about the takedown, he looks like a killer. He can light up guys like Tai Tuivasa, Spivak, Derek Lewis. But the second you make him think about wrestling, he gets hesitant, and a hesitant Gane is not dangerous. That's why I favor Aspinall. And if he beats Gane, who's left? Curtis Blades? Already beat him. Volkov? Beat him too. Pavlovich? Dangerous. But Aspinall has more tools. If Aspinall clears Gane, we're about to see him stack title defenses like Infinity Stones. I think Tom Aspinall becomes the heavyweight GOAT. He runs through that division. One thing's for sure, MMA never stops evolving. Champions fall, underdogs rise, and history is rewritten every single fight. Who do you think is the next big superstar? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more real fight talk. Straight up, no hype, just facts.